Aloha, and how is it? Today we're talking all about getting started with hashtags on LinkedIn. We're going to cover the gamut from how to get started with them on LinkedIn as a beginner to how to use hashtags like a pro. And more on that in a moment. So, how was your weekend? If you celebrate Halloween, then I hope you had a spooky and fun weekend. Our kiddos went as a pirate and a ninja, and we had a decent sized swell also come into my favorite point break, point, and I got to practice on my shortboard. So that was super fun. So this is a shortboard that you're seeing here. It wasn't that one, it was another one. So I've officially graduated from my 6'4" fun board, which is a little more scoopier of a nose, not so pointy, to a 6'2" Paizel shortboard. I know it's all a bit like nerdy if you don't surf. Basically, it means that I'm starting to progress and I can ride faster, steeper waves. So I'm working on my takeoff and some turns on a smaller board, and it's becoming really fun and very addicting. All right, but now it is time for Mondays with Mindy. This is a weekly show at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, where I talk all about LinkedIn profiles, promo, and pipeline, what I call the three P's of LinkedIn. So if you have questions about LinkedIn that you want me to answer, be sure to like this post, whether you're watching live or from the replay. Leave your questions below, and I will answer them after the show or on a future episode of Mondays with Mindy. Now, let's get to today's topic, which is how do you approach getting started with hashtags on LinkedIn? How many hashtags should you use? Do they work the same as other channels? This was a question that came to me from one of my clients last week. She said, "Hey, can you please do a session on hashtags? Because I don't know what to do with them. And I know they're important, but I don't know where to get started." All right, so which hashtags should I use on LinkedIn? How many hashtags are too many? Should I create my own hashtag to build thought leadership? Do hashtags work the same on LinkedIn as other channels? These are all questions that we ask ourselves when we start using hashtags or think about using hashtags. So, since 2007, when the first hashtag was used on Twitter by a very nerdy Tom Huddleston Jr., Chris Messina, they have exploded onto the scene to help us better communicate on the socials. I feel like hashtags have helped us share the nuances of a topic, really get into larger conversations, spark movements that change culture, cleverly help us share insider knowledge, and even kickstart new trends. So, LinkedIn, I feel like, was a very slow adopter, but now hashtags definitely are a thing that every LinkedIn user should know how to use effectively. And I've had a number of people ask me if they even need to use hashtags if they're happy with their network size. Like, what's the point, Mindy? I'm happy with my posts. I'm happy with how things are going. But if you are not using hashtags, you are missing a huge opportunity to increase the visibility of your post beyond your immediate LinkedIn network. So when you don't use a hashtag, the only people who will see your post appear in their feed are your first degree connections. And if they don't like or engage with your post, it dies like right then and there. That's it. That's it. So bye bye post. Nobody sees, nobody engages. It's kind of like the tree falling in the forest. Did anyone hear it? Nobody was there to see it. That whole metaphor. So there's no chance for anyone else to see your post if you don't use hashtags. So even if you are not trying to become the next LinkedIn influencer, you want your potential reach to be as extensive as possible. That is very, very important. Your post engagement depends on it, which leads to building trust with the people who will eventually want to work with you or hire you if you are a job seeker. And hashtags are just really easy to use. Like, all you have to do is hashtag whatever the topic is. So they're a very easy way to instantly increase your post reach without having to attract new followers or build a massive LinkedIn network. I feel like hashtags are really good for those of you who are new to LinkedIn posting. Maybe you have a very small network, you're trying to get some traction. They're also good for those of you with a really big growing network because you're going to continue to build thought leadership by increasing your reach. So, no matter where you are on the spectrum of LinkedIn, like how big your network is, how small your network is, hashtags can be used to your advantage and you should start learning how to use them well. So, are you sold on hashtags yet? Let's get into the details. Aloha, for those who don't know me, my name is Mindy Rosser. I'm the founder of Mindy Rosser Marketing, and I have a program called the LinkedIn Accelerator for those who want to go from 0 to 60 on LinkedIn with their profile and their network. And we're actually kicking off the next cohort today at the top of the hour. So go ahead and jump on the wait list if you missed it this time and you want to be notified the next time doors open. I will put the link in the comments. So I help superstars who feel they are the best kept secret in their industry to become that go to visible expert in their niche so they can get that next opportunity, grow their business, and scale their impact. And in this live, we are going to talk about why not using LinkedIn hashtags on your post is causing you to stunt your network growth and derail your thought leadership goals, and how you can easily start using hashtags to build your network and attracts people who want to work with you. So are you ready? Let's do this. And reminder to go ahead and like this post, whether you're live or watching from the replay, to give it some social love. All right, so maybe you're a job seeker, or you're not actively trying to grow your network. You might assume that hashtags are really not that big of a deal for you. The thing is, hashtags can be used in other places besides your LinkedIn post. When we think of hashtags, we usually think of Instagram. We think of putting them in our post, putting them in that first comment, but we don't think about where else we can use these hashtags. So, have you heard of digital creator mode? If you don't have this turned on your profile, on your LinkedIn profile, this is something we'll talk about in a little bit, but this is another place where you can use hashtags. And you get to choose the top 5 that speak to the topics you're an expert in. So hashtags are good for posts, but they're also good for other places on your profile. Hashtags are a way to show that you are like in the know on LinkedIn when you use them well, and they instantly allow people to figure out what you're talking about. So it's just a really good way to instantly connect with people. And when they see these hashtags, they're thinking, oh, this is a part of that conversation, or this is the topic that they're thinking about. So it just adds a little bit more nuance, it adds a little bit more context, it adds a little more perspective to your post. There's a lot of nuance with hashtags. You'll notice that as you start using them. And you can actually leverage hashtags to become the dominant voice on a hashtag if that's your goal. So if you're thinking you want to own a hashtag, you can't officially own a hashtag, but you can dominate the conversation. And using hashtags, you will be able to do that if you do it well. So many ways to use hashtags, but where do you actually start? You want to start simple. It's not about using too many hashtags because the algorithm actually doesn't like that. So if you overdo it with the number of hashtags, the algorithm is going to actually put your post further down in the feed and they're not going to pop it to the top. It's about using hashtags in a way that makes sense for your personal brand or for your LinkedIn page, because you can use hashtags on your LinkedIn page as well. Hashtags are a way to make your post and profile stand out from the crowd. I like to think of them as an accessory, like social curator expert Jasmine Star, love her, likes to call them. When she talks about hashtags and using them on Instagram, she says they're not like the full outfit you're putting on, but they do add that little extra something that makes the outfit feel put together. So, like your earrings or your necklace or something like that. So, it just kind of pulls the entire outfit together and really makes it look put together, as I like to say. So when I use a hashtag for my own posts or with my clients or with my students, I think about the different types of people who use those hashtags and maybe searching for those topics on LinkedIn. So hashtags are kind of like topics. You think of them as topic areas, you think of them as conversations, you think of them as a movement. So these are ways to think about hashtags. They should be chosen appropriately and they should match the content on your profile if you're using them there, or inside of your post. You don't want to just use a hashtag because it is popular. It needs to be what you specifically want people to think about when they read that post, when they look at your profile. And you can think of them as categorizing your post or your profile by the hashtags you use. So make sure they are aligned with your overall business strategy. That is really, really important. Don't just choose hashtags because they're popular, because you've seen other experts use them. Make sure they actually match and align with your business, because they should speak to the business value that you provide in the marketplace. So hashtags are important to your business strategy on LinkedIn and on other channels. They're not something that you're just going to use willy-nilly because you're like, oh, this is a great hashtag. I'll just use this one. So let's talk about 10 hashtag tips, and I'm going to answer your questions. I've gotten a lot of questions since I posted this that I was going to be talking about hashtags, and there is no way I will be able to answer all of them inside of this session, but we are going to talk through some different hashtag ideas. I'm also likely going to share a little bit of my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. So hopefully that is helpful for you. And are you ready? Let's dive into these. So we're going to talk about how you can take that next step towards crafting thought leadership content with your hashtags. Not just posting that well thought out content and a great profile, but really helping people understand what you're really good at instantly. And that's using the right hashtag or hashtags. So this is all about changing people's perspectives, helping them to see something they assume to be unequivocally true through another lens. And hashtags can actually help you do that. They are really good for those of you who are trying to build thought leadership and get people to think. All right, so first question that came in, which hashtags should I use on LinkedIn? So, this is a very, very broad topic. There are a bazillion hashtags that you could possibly choose to use on LinkedIn. I like to start with thinking about 5 hashtags. So, just 5 that you really want to use on a regular basis. These 5 hashtags are something that you're going to do a little bit of research on. So you're going to look at LinkedIn and we are going to take a quick peek so you can see my screen here. Let me share this. You'll see me in the bottom and we are going to look at some hashtags here. So when you are looking at hashtags in your feed, if you go here where it says followed hashtags, if you're following any hashtags, they're going to show up here. So this is a good way to keep track of different hashtags to kind of look and see what is interesting to you, to kind of explore. And you can search for hashtags here. So like things that would be in my space, I would start typing in LinkedIn and kind of see the different types of hashtags that pop up. And you'll see that I can tell how many followers it has as well. So when you are first picking your first 5 hashtags, that's what I recommend. 5 hashtags is what you're going for. Do some research. You're going to play with this search bar and you're going to look for hashtags that make the most sense for your business. Okay, so you don't want to willy-nilly choose these. You are really going to be specific about 5 hashtags that you are going to use. You're going to look them up. You're going to see how many followers they have. You're going to make sure that they align with your business. If you're using hashtags on Instagram or another channel, you may want to consider which hashtags you are using there as well. Not all of them will be applicable on LinkedIn. Sometimes you may find that the same topic may have a different type of hashtag on LinkedIn. So you'll want to do some research just to confirm that for yourself. All right, so 5 hashtags and do some research by looking to see how many followers they have. Does it align with your business strategy? And is that the best hashtag you can use? And you want to think about these 5 as something you're going to use over and over again. Okay, so, second question that came in, which 5 hashtags should I use in digital creator mode? So, I'm going to share again because I want to show you what digital creator mode is. And it's a really important feature for those of you who do have 500 plus connections and you're really wanting to grow those connections. You want to build thought leadership. So, the digital creator mode, you can tell that I have it because of these 5 hashtags that are showing up here. So when you are thinking about the hashtags that you want to use in digital creator mode, think about those 5 hashtags that you were thinking about on using on LinkedIn. Make sure you could probably just use those 5 and start with those, or you can get a little more creative. Maybe you want to create your own hashtag. A lot of people like to do that on LinkedIn because it allows them to dominate the conversation. So for me, the way that I went about choosing my hashtags, LinkedIn, okay, I talk about LinkedIn all the time. It's a very general hashtag, but it lets people know I do a lot of LinkedIn talking. LinkedIn tips. I like to give tips. That's something that's really practical for me. Social selling. That is directly in my headline. So I talk about social selling, and social selling is kind of like the hybrid of sales and marketing kind of put together. So that's really my secret. That's my secret sauce or the strategy that I take when I am using social channels. Then LinkedIn marketing. That's another popular one in the space, and I wanted to keep that one. And then this one is my own LinkedIn Accelerator. There may be other people who have used that hashtag, but that is related to my program that I offer. So you can see that I have a blend of hashtags here. Some are a little more popular than others, and some are speaking to my expertise. So that's what you want to think about with digital creator mode when you are choosing those hashtags. All right. So, third question, are hashtags picked up by the LinkedIn algorithm? I think this is a good one because when we are thinking about the algorithm, we are wanting to sometimes we're trying to game it. Sometimes we're trying to play the algorithm. Sometimes we're just trying to please it and make it happy. So it pops our content to the top. And when you are thinking about the algorithm and your hashtags, you want to think about how many hashtags you are using because how many hashtags you are using is going to affect whether LinkedIn says, oh, that's a spammy post because you use too many hashtags, or, oh, that is actually a good high quality post because your hashtags match what is the content, what is inside of that post. So think about that because the algorithm does like you using hashtags, usually about 3. We'll talk about that in a moment. But how many hashtags to use? 3 to 5, and make sure to choose ones that match the content inside of your post. Really, really important. And that is going to help you in being found in the algorithm. It's also going to help you in the different feeds. So, in the different hashtag feeds, and I will share my screen so you can see that as well. When you are in looking at content and somebody is following some posts inside of these different feeds, let's click on one so you can just see what that looks like. Let's look at LinkedIn tips. So you can see the content that is going to pop to the top is sorted by top. That means LinkedIn is ranking it higher. Most likely, these people are inside of my network, or I have some type of connection, or the quality of the content is really good. It also may be some promoted content. So you may see some ads here as well because they are trying to attach to different hashtags. So that's something to think about with the quality of your post. Yes, they do matter. Make sure that the hashtags match the type of content that you are sharing. Really important. All right. So, number four, how do hashtags increase visibility and engagement? We talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but hashtags are a way to go beyond your network. So, if you have a smaller network, if you have a big network and you just want to reach people beyond that, you want to choose hashtags that people are following. So, that means you want to choose hashtags that are a little more popular. Sometimes you may not want them to be too popular because your post may get lost inside the stream. So you kind of are playing that fine line between too popular and somewhat popular. But they help people to that are following those hashtags to see your content in their feed. And when they are looking for those hashtags that stream that we just looked at, when they are looking at, okay, I'm looking for content on LinkedIn posts or LinkedIn tips or LinkedIn marketing. In my case, people would go and follow that hashtag and see what content is popping up there. And you want your content showing up there. You want people engaging with it. So it's a really good way to increase that visibility. As for engagement, when you increase visibility and people find that content insightful, they are going to engage. So that's going to thereby increase your engagement. So you really want to think about visibility and engagement. They are intertwined and they do play well with each other. So make sure that it is getting visible, which that's why you're using your hashtag, and that people are engaging with it. So when you are clever with the way that you write your post, you're encouraging people to engage with that content. Okay. All right. So number five, how do I pick the popular hashtags in my niche? Ah, so there are a lot of ways to go about picking popular hashtags. One way that you could go about it is by following competitors. So if there are people in your space that are direct competitors of yours, or maybe you've collaborated with them, they're colleagues, they're peers in the space, I would look at their content if they are active posters on LinkedIn and see which hashtags they're using. It's a really good starting point. If you're at a loss and you're thinking, I don't want to do that, then what you're going to want to do is what we talked about at the beginning, which is going and searching for hashtags. So kind of putting words together that you think make sense. Like in my example, social selling, LinkedIn tips, LinkedIn marketing, LinkedIn profiles, LinkedIn expert, LinkedIn strategy. These are all hashtags that I might put together and explore to see which one has a good number of followers and may be good to tinker with, to explore, to experiment with. So this is how you're going to go about finding hashtags. One really cool way to actually see how many followers, and somebody shared this when I was researching the live, is this little Chrome plugin here, which is just called LinkedIn hashtags. If you have Google Chrome and I don't think I'm sharing my screen, so let me share my screen. If you have Google Chrome, there is a hashtag called LinkedIn hashtags, and you can add it as an extension. And when you do that, let's actually type in so you can see what that looks like. When I start typing in LinkedIn tips here into this section, and I'm typing more of a post, I'm posting about LinkedIn live. And you can see when I hover over the hashtag that I might consider using, you'll see how many followers pop up. This is because I'm using a Chrome extension called LinkedIn hashtags. Just Google it, you'll find it. You can add it to your Chrome extension. It's fantastic. I love it because then I can choose like, oh, if I'm like on the fence between LinkedIn marketing and training, I might say, maybe I'll use LinkedIn marketing because it has a few more followers. And so it's an instant way for me to get feedback on a very popular LinkedIn post. So I thought that was a really, really nifty trick. You can also just type it into the search bar on LinkedIn to see how many people are following it, but that's a faster way to go about it. All right. So, question number 6, how many hashtags should I use per post? All right. So, that is a very tricky thing sometimes. And I would err on the side of using too few versus too many. So I tend to use 3 to 5. I have seen some research from people that love crunching numbers on LinkedIn hashtags. And they have said 3 is actually what LinkedIn prefers right now versus 5. It used to be like 5 to 9, 5 to 10. So you could get away with using a lot more hashtags. LinkedIn wants you to be a little more specific. So you probably want to choose between 3 to 5 hashtags per post. And you want them to show at the end of the post. So you write all of your content, you add a line break, and then you add your hashtags there. 3 to 5. Don't put them in the comments. Make sure to put them inside the text of the post. That's the best place for them. Okay, so question number 7. What are hashtag followers on LinkedIn? So, for those of you who don't know what a hashtag follower is, it just means that certain people want to keep up on certain hashtag topics on LinkedIn. I follow a number of hashtags, and that means I'm telling LinkedIn that I actually want to see them in my feed. So, when people post on these specific topics, put them higher inside of my newsfeed. So, it's telling the LinkedIn algorithm to feed me more of this type of content. It also makes it easy for me to be able to go into those conversations and see what people are talking about related to those hashtags. So if I'm looking for content specifically related to the hashtags that I follow, I will type it into my LinkedIn search bar and go look at it. So it's a really neat way to I guess if you want to say to keep up on different content in different areas. Okay. So it's very similar to what people do when they follow hashtags on Instagram as well. You'll see how Instagram puts it inside of their feed. The same thing happens on LinkedIn. So it's really, really good if there are a lot of followers because the likelihood is your content will be showing up higher in the feed as long as it's high quality. All right. We are buzzing right along. Number 8, how do hashtags actually work on LinkedIn? This is a really basic question, but basically the same as they do on all other channels. So when people click them, they are hyperlinked. The hashtags are hyperlinked as long as they are inside of your post. They are not hyperlinked if you try to use them inside of your LinkedIn headline, if you try to use them inside of your LinkedIn about section. They are not hyperlinked there, but they are hyperlinked in your posts and they are hyperlinked inside of digital creator mode. So those are really good places to use them because people can click them and go off and look at all of the other content. Okay. So very similar to how other channels work. All right, number 9, where should I use hashtags on LinkedIn? Should I use in my profile, my post, anywhere else that I can use them? All right, so I like to use hashtags in posts. So every post that you write should have 3 to 5 hashtags. So always use them in your post. On your profile, turn on digital creator mode if you have 500 plus connections, because then you can use those hashtags there. Elsewhere, I used to recommend that you put hashtags inside of your headline sometimes. I used to recommend that you would put them in the about section. I don't really recommend that anymore just because they're not hyperlinked there and they do look a little weird. So I would keep them to the digital creator mode section. I would keep them in your posts. And then if you have a LinkedIn company page, make sure that you are adding them there and that people, the posts that you are sharing from that LinkedIn page are using the same 3 to 5 hashtags per post if you're posting from the page. Okay. So you want to be thoughtful about where you use them. Make sure that they are hyperlinked. Don't just add them willy nilly everywhere because it does look a little bit messy, especially on your profile or on your company page. All right, good question. And the final question for today. We'll have to do a round 2 because I got a lot more. Final question. How do I create a hashtag strategy for my profile? So, when you are thinking about your hashtag strategy, like we mentioned at the beginning, you want to choose 5 hashtags. So, you're going to do some research. Who is your target audience? That's number 1. Figure out who your target audience is. Number 2, pick the 5 hashtags of those that would match that target audience. So, what are they following on LinkedIn? What would they be interested in? Then you're just going to start using those hashtags. So, add it to digital creator mode. Then make sure that you are using those hashtags within your LinkedIn post. Now, you can go beyond those 5, but if you are just getting started and you are feeling a little overwhelmed with figuring out hashtags, I would just choose 5. If you are a little more advanced, I'd probably have about 15 hashtags that I kind of circle back to and kind of mix and match over time, and they would be related to the different segments within my ideal community, my avatar, my customer avatar or customer community. So those are things to be thinking about is 5 hashtags, start with 5 hashtags, use them in digital creator mode, use them in your posts. If you are more advanced, have 15 that you're kind of circling between, and you can always update these. So if you notice that the hashtags are not really performing as well as you hoped, or maybe you're using the same hashtags and you feel like you're overusing them, it may be time to switch it up as well. There's a lot that goes into a hashtag strategy. So I don't have the time right now to dive too much into it, but I'm thinking about doing a hashtag masterclass related to LinkedIn. So if this is something you're interested in, just let me know, and I will put something together that's a little bit more tangible, that is not just Q&A, and I will let you know about that because I feel like there's so much that we can talk about related to hashtags, and we could go a lot deeper. All right, that is going to wrap it for today's questions. Just remember that there's really no perfect way to use hashtags on LinkedIn, but you really need to match your hashtags to the types of topics your audience would be looking for or would be interested in on LinkedIn. I've seen too many people make assumptions about hashtags and either totally overdo them. So there's like a bazillion hashtags because they think more is better, or they ignore hashtags because they either don't understand them or think they're just not really necessary. So you want to match your hashtag choices to your audience. They'll start knowing which topics you enjoy discussing, and then you'll be well on your way to building trust with your tribe. So, in conclusion, your goal is to create those more meaningful one-to-one connections with the people you want to serve and do business with. And LinkedIn hashtags is one way to kickstart the trust that leads to those connections. So, start adding them to your LinkedIn strategy and using them in a way that works with your personal brand. My challenge for you this week: think about your target audience and your people. Which hashtags do they use? Are there any that seem really popular? Should you create your own hashtag? Based on that information, determine which hashtags you should experiment with. And remember, 5. Start with 5. Keep it simple. And if you are ready to dial in your LinkedIn profile for good and really get started on building that strategic network, get on my waitlist for the next cohort of the LinkedIn Accelerator. I'm putting the link up there. I'll put it in the comments, where I will be doing a free kickoff training to help you flesh out your LinkedIn strategy. So get on that waitlist. The doors are probably opening soon. I'm not exactly sure when, but probably early 2022. We're kicking off the next cohort in about 30 minutes. So I'm really excited about that. And until next week, leave me any questions or comments below, and my inbox is always open if you want to message me or you have suggestions about a topic you'd like to see on Mondays with Mindy. I will see you all next week. Have a beautiful rest of your week.